Thank you, friends. Shabbat Shalom and greetings to you all. The May is almost over, and as it ends, there's a couple of celebrations. Up north, of course, is Victoria Day, named for a British queen no one any longer knows anything about. Down south is Memorial Day, honoring the armed forces and martyrs of the nation. And in case you forgot, or more likely never knew, May is Jewish Heritage or History Month, and has been since it was so declared in 2006, which was an expansion on the 1980 President Carter Declaration of Jewish Heritage Week, which of course also was in May. Now you say you didn't know. No, you didn't. It's not covered. It's not promoted. But it will continue to be essential. The strongest suit of Judaism is education. Hopefully there will be a reminder somewhere, sometime, of Jewish Heritage Month. The heritage of Jews is in so many ways the heritage of all of us. The struggle of the Jewish people is the struggle of us all. Survival, independence, acceptance. Its legacy is more than the three Western religions and monotheism. And as we just finished a great holiday, I hope you all had a wonderful Shavuot, celebrating the gift of 10 little rules for life, which can be summed up by one: love. Love all as yourself, and we saw that was in the Torah last week. I'm often asked why sometimes on Shavuot we read the book of Ruth. It has nothing to do with the holiday per se, but King David, the great poet, philosopher, warrior king, died on Shavuot, and his ancestor was Ruth, whose story is a fascinating one and well worth the read, a story of faith, of belief, of devotion. So if you get a chance, read the book of Ruth. It's very short. And it pains me to know that B had a sad birthday, alone due to the current rules of engagement, but you're never alone. You're always connected to those you love in your hearts and in your souls. For any who have been, with the loved ones in their lives physically in the past and can't be anymore, you always are, spiritually, emotionally. There's always a connection. And we don't always get to gather with those we love, but we connect always at different levels, just as we connect as a collective consciousness of seekers showing faith, any and all faith, and love, any and all love, as a community, a chavura, a fellowship, expressing our nature of kindness, compassion, thoughts, feelings, hopes, dreams, and wishes that unites us all of us together in this community house of spirit, Beth Ruach, sharing and bringing light, keeping fear at bay. So once again, please do go ahead, invite everybody, some physically, the rest digitally, psychically, emotionally, spiritually, to come gather and share from Psalm 133, the Hine Matov. Come together. Hine Matov, Benai, Shevet Achim Kam Ya. Hine Matov, Benai, Shevet Achim Kam Ya. How good, how pleasant it is for brothers and sisters together. Community. 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 Together. Let's all spread love, goodwill, and fellowship to the world, my friend. Just spread it all out. This is your setting aside just a little bit of sacred time in your own sacred space to honor and converse with whoever, whatever you happen to believe in. We all believe in something. It's a part of your kavanah, your intention that you put out to the universe. It's your goodwill. So let's take some time now and let's send some of that goodwill, some light, some healing out to whoever you know that needs it. Healing and renewal for everybody, my friends. It floats through space, finding those in need. So send it out for those you know and for the souls and spirits of everybody you love. So think of whoever that needs healing and renewal and love, or just plain goodwill. Focus on them. Call their names. It's not just for people. It's for our pets. It's for the earth. It is the healing of the world. It is the tikkun olam that's part of our spiritual genetic makeup. Let's send thoughts and energy for health and renewal and goodwill for everyone. They don't have to be sick. It's for those in our hearts and in our minds. For Lucy and her dear mother, Rosanna. For Adrian and Frank. For Jim. For Dave. For Mary. For Matthew. For Lindsay. For Mark. For Anne. For Brooke. For Rosemary. Friends, it is the kindness, the healing wishes, goodwill, and love we all send out. It just circles the world finding those in need. So thank you, each of you, for all you do, for all you care, because the world is a world of spirit and spirit, my friends. never dies. Mi Shabbat Avotenu Makor HaBracha Limotenu. May the source of strength bless the ones before us. Help us find the courage. Make our lives a blessing. The renewal of body. The renewal of spirit. Let us say, Amen. Mishaberach, let us all have our spirits renewed. This is the great prayer for healing, which we call upon God to heal as He has healed before. Mishaberach, may He who blessed, because all healing is a blessing. Let's all send and receive healing and renewal energy in our efforts to love, to care, to share, to grow. While we celebrated the Epiphany of the Ten Commandments, it's easy to see why, at one point, they were the daily liturgy, almost the only one. They promote caring, they promote sharing, they promote love. And if you didn't say it or think it, go back and quickly remind yourself of these 10 little rules of life. No other gods, no image, no promises in God's name in vain. Remember the day of ceasing. Honor your father and your mother. Do not murder. Do not commit adultery. Do not steal. Do not testify against your neighbor as a lying witness. And do not covet. Simple rules. They're built around our relationship to divinity, our relationship to our roots, and our relationship to fellow man. All easy to do. And one of these comes up this week. We'll find out which one soon. We take a bit of a detour as we read Nasso Add Up. And sometimes some things do not add up. It seems at times like we're living in a bit of an upside-down Superman type of bizarro world. How and why it's happening, don't know. People seem to research less and ask Google or Siri or the Amazon girl robot thing answers to questions. They get them immediately. They don't think. They don't have to research. They don't have to question it. And they don't have to sort through material because something, somewhere, someone has decided on their behalf what they need to know, and they get an answer instantly. I remember when you had to go to the library or look things up in encyclopedias. I don't think most of that exists anymore. You take that in this crazy cancel culture, and I'm reminded of the great classic Twilight Zone episode, The Obsolete Man, with Burgess Meredith and Fritz Weaver. Beware, you may wake up one day and be told you are now obsolete. And if you've not seen it, go back and watch it. We seem to be approaching this world where logic is an enemy and truth is a menace. Do not let this happen. Well, the beginning of this week has another mini census of another group who will die. Don't dwell on the numbers in numbers. It's not what it's about. Look to see what the lessons that we read every week are about. This book is really all about the journey. It is the great metaphor of life that's upon us all. And there's two fascinating things that we're going to read about this week. The first is the test for the unfaithful wife. The second is the Nazirite pledge. Numbers 5:12. Speak to the children of Israel, and you shall say to them, any man whose wife will go astray and will make a breach of faith with him. Now, go astray, it's very interesting. The Hebrew root is sota. Now, the situation is known as the case of the sota, straying wife. This section deals with someone who is suspected. A woman whose husband suspects her of adultery, but who's not been proved guilty by evidence or witnesses. Now, it would not merit special notice as anything more than any other law, especially since it's not been practiced for at least 2 millennia, and probably more than 2.5 millennia. But it's acquired special importance because, first, it's regarded as the only case of trial by ordeal in the Torah. And second, because questions about the legal status of women have risen to prominence. The woman is made to drink a mixture of holy water, dust from the tabernacle's floor, and ink from a document expressing a curse if she's guilty. But that's not the important thing. Notice there is not evidence or witnesses. And that's important because remember, conviction takes two witnesses, especially for a capital crime. But there are deeper reasons for this whole section. The penalty here is different than any other place where adultery is involved. This does not result in death. Why? Well, again, there's no evidence, there's no witnesses. There cannot be a death penalty. So this has to be about something completely different. This is about pregnancy. The woman must be pregnant for this entire episode to take place. She's suspected, right? And it's only for women, it's not for men. Okay, so it's pregnancy is a condition that's without analogy in human experience. And that's why this case is like no other case that you read about in the Torah. And that's why there are agonizing, passionate debates in the present age over whether to save the mother or the baby in a medical crisis during labor, over rights to sperm and eggs that have been preserved, over surrogate mothers, but above all, over abortion, with arguments about when the developing being inside the womb is a living human in its own right, and about the legal rights of the mother, and what rights she has over her own body, and how does that balance with the legal protection of the fetus. There simply is no other experience in which two lives are so utterly interconnected. Now, this was so important, my friends, that there are two entire tractates of the Talmud dedicated to this. Right? So it's much more important than you think. The other incredible thing in this week's reading is about the Nazarite vow. Number 6:2. Speak to the children of Israel, and you shall say to them, when a man or a woman will expressly make a Nazarite vow to make a separation for the Lord. Again, you got to look at the words that are being used. Separation for the Lord means the priesthood. Now, that's a right of male birth. It's not a choice. But here, it says a man or a woman, and I thought only men were priests. Now, although the rest of the law is stated in the masculine, the entire matter of choosing to be a Nazarite applies to both men and women equally. A Nazarite is priest-like and vows to give up certain things and live in a state of holiness. Now, there's the general idea in the Torah that all people are holy. But the Nazarite vow refers to a singular state that exceeds that. The Nazarite gives up three things: consuming alcohol, coming near dead people, and cutting his or her hair. Why these three things? Friends, these are the three things that are related to priesthood, but in particularly to the high priest. Right away, the two most famous Nazarites from the Bible must come to mind. The biggest, Jesus. Not from Nazareth, since he was supposedly born in Bethlehem, the city of David, but because he was a Nazarite. Not Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus the Nazarite. And the other, of course, Samson, with the most famous haircut in history. Now, we'll pass on Jesus right now, so let's talk a bit about Samson. Samson was the biblical Hercules, a man of superhuman strength, who nonetheless could not escape tragedy. He's the last of the major judges who led the Israelites, but he is hardly an ideal role model or savior. Samson breaks vows, marries outside of the people of Israel twice, and functions much more as a vigilante than a leader. And although he strays from the role he was destined for, he returns. The key element we so often see is of returning, teshuvah. It calls to you your entire life, and when embraced, it engages the forgiveness mechanism and more. The story of Samson, it's not recorded in the Torah, but it is in the Bible. It's in the book of prophets, Nevi'im, in the book of Judges, chapters 13 to 16. Judges 13:1. And the Israelites once more did evil in the eyes of the Lord, and he gave them into the hands of the Philistines for 40 years. There was a man from Zorah, from the clan of the Danite. His name was Manoah. His woman was barren. She'd borne no child, and a messenger of the Lord appeared to the woman and said to her, "Look, pray. You are barren and have borne no child, but you shall conceive and bear a son. Now guard yourself. Pray. Drink no wine or strong drink, and eat no unclean thing. For you're about to conceive and bear a son, and no razor shall touch his head. for the lad shall be a Nazarite of God from the womb. He's being dedicated to priest status from before birth. And we get to see his Herculean strength in Judges 14:5 very quickly. And Samson went down, and his father and mother with him, to Timnah. They came as far as the vineyards of Timnah. And look, a young lion came roaring at him, and the Spirit of the Lord seized him, and he ripped it apart as one would rip apart a kid with nothing in his hand. And he did not tell his father and mother what he had done. And he went down and spoke to the woman, and she pleased Samson, and he came back after a time to marry her, and turned aside to see the place where the lion had fallen. And look, there was a swarm of bees in the lion's carcass and honey. He scoops it up and he eats it. Okay, so he's in a vineyard. Strike one, although he's not drinking. He takes food from an animal carcass. Strike two. This is some paragon. Might as well have been a patriarch. Then another of the famous stories about him occurs when he's set upon by a swarm of Philistines who were there to capture and kill him. Judges 15:15. And he found the fresh jawbone of a donkey and reached out his hand and took it and struck down 1,000 men with it. But we know his karma is coming, and the story we all really know is coming. Judges 16:4. And it happened afterward that he loved a woman at Nahal Sorek, and her name was Delilah. And the Philistine overlords went up to her and said to her, entice him, and see in what his great power lies, and with what we can prevail against him, and bind him to torture him. As for us, each of us will give you 1,100 silver shekels. And Delilah said to Samson, tell me, pray, in what your great power lies, and with what could you be bound to be tortured? Samson said, they were to bind me with 7 moist thongs that had not been dried out. I would be weakened and become like any man. Philistine overlords brought up to her 7 moist thongs that had not been dried out, and she bound him with them. The ambush was laid in her chamber, and she said to him, Philistines are upon you, Samson. He snapped the cords as the wick of tow snaps when it touches fire, and the secret of his power was not known. Well, she does this 3 separate times, and every time he breaks free. So, she complains to him that he says he loves her but won't tell her his secret. Well, he finally breaks down, and he does. Judges 16:17. And he told her all that was in his heart, and he said, no razor has touched my head, for I've been a Nazarite of God from my mother's womb. Were I shaven, my power would turn away from me, and I would be weakened and become like any man. And Delilah saw that he told her all that was in his heart. This time she knew it was the truth. She put him to sleep on her knees and called the man and shaved his head 7 tresses. And she began to torture him, and his power turned away from him. And she said, Samson, Samson, the Philistines are upon you. And he awoke from his sleep and said, I will go out as all other times and shake myself loose. But he did not know that the Lord had turned away from him. The Philistines seized him and gouged out his eyes. They brought him down to Gaza, bound him in fetters, and he was put to grinding in the prison. Well, they bring him to the temple for a festival. There were over 3,000 people there, including most of the Philistine overlords. They drag Samson out. But over time, his hair had been growing back. Judges 16:29. And Samson grasped the 2 central pillars on which the temple stood and pushed against them, one with his right hand, one with his left hand. And Samson said, let me die with the Philistines. And he pushed powerfully, and the temple fell on the overlords and on all the people who were in it. And the dead that he killed in his death were more than he had killed in his life. Samson's career as an Israelite champion ends in an act of wholesale destruction, in which he too dies, like fire that consumes everything in its path, and eventually itself as well. If you get a chance, watch the 1949 Samson and Delilah movie with Victor Mature and Hedy Lamarr. It's fantastic. Now, the Talmud debates the true character of Samson. One Mishnah paints him in a very negative light, saying that Samson's eyes were gouged out as a punishment for having followed the desire of his eyes. And this can actually be found in the famous Talmud tractate, Sota 9b, that we mentioned before, one of the two tractates on the Sota. But rabbis being rabbis, the Talmud found middle ground and suggested that Samson may have followed his own inclinations, but the master plan was God's. His motivations may have been questionable, but Samson was still an important hero at a troubled time for the Israelites. If nothing else, this is another reminder that heroes come from different people, and they come in different shapes and sizes. And most often, they are normal people with the foibles of normalcy, humanity. Here was someone who followed their own path, not necessarily a righteous one, but who came to have faith and demonstrated it and reminds us that God accepts us at any time in our lives when we choose to return to Him. The iron hand, it ain't no match for the iron rod. The strongest wall crumble and fall to a mighty God. For all those who have eyes and all those who have ears, it's only He who can reduce me to tears. Don't you cry, don't you die, and don't you burn. Now there's certain themes you might have noticed in the story of Samson. These are the themes of our lives. There's the theme of sight. There's a constant reference to sight and what is right in my eyes. We all look through our own eyes. But sight also points to the condition of Samson's heart. There's strength. He can kill a lion with his bare hands. He can kill 1,000 Philistines with the jawbone of an ass. He can tear down a temple. But his greatest strength came from doing God's work. Sin. This is not a paragon of virtue, but who is? And accordingly, he became first spiritually weak, then physically weak. And not until he could overcome and ask forgiveness of sin could his strength return. It's the same for any of us. Sovereignty. He acknowledges the sovereignty of God, regains his strength. Purpose. We all have purpose, and we ultimately are called to that purpose. And choice. We're all free to choose, but we're not necessarily free from the consequence of our choice. Friends, every action takes us either closer or farther from God. And then the week's reading ends with a reading of a true piece of liturgy by providing a prayer still said to this day, over 3,300 years after it was given to us. Poetic in Hebrew and in English, the priestly blessing. It's said over everyone. You'll hear it primarily during the high holidays. I do it for every couple that gets married, of course. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmarecha. Ya'er panav alecha v'yudecha. Yisa Adonai panav alecha v'yisem lecha shalom. V'yisem lecha shalom. V'yisem lecha shalom. May the Lord bless and keep you. May His grace and His face shine upon you. May the Lord lift up His countenance upon you and give you peace. And give you peace. And give you peace. Yes, the world is sacred, my friends, and so is everything in it. Express your gratitude. Light a candle, make a wish, celebrate your life and the lives of those you love. Share your feelings with them. Live free, be free, honor your freedom, be well, be happy, be blessed. Share and honor the light, all who live in the light and continue to shine. Continue to send everybody you know goodwill and love. Pray for peace and freedom for everyone and end to terror and hatred. Remember, friends, we're a community. We learn together, we celebrate each other, we love each other, we share this ride together, men and women equally. So let's send out love, not fear. Send out peace, harmony, goodwill, and healing to all who need it. And please do. Learn to forgive and learn to love, including yourself. Open your heart. Honor the relationships of your life. Tell those you love that you love them. Take advantage of the time you have and enjoy that journey. We take the twists and turns and the patterns that weave through the fabric of our lives in our effort to grow, to learn, to be, to love. So please do love. Now bless you all. Have a fantastic week, a week of love and light, a week of peace, a week of miracles. Examine your intentions and use them to imprint your will on the universe. We set in motion all that happens in our lives. Our intention, our kavana, cause or effect. Everything's linked. Now, as I've said, you always have time to forgive and to be forgiven. You have the knowledge of what's good and bad, so acknowledge what you have done wrong to yourself, to God, to any person you've wronged. Ask forgiveness. Do so with sincerity, accountability, and vulnerability. Forgive those who've hurt you. You learn to be forgiving and compassionate, because the secret of forgiveness, compassion, and peace is in acceptance. Can you accept yourself, other people in the world just as they are? Can you accept life as it is without trying to control it? Because if you do, you can experience the peace that acceptance brings. So do not stop your journey. Do not stop moving towards your promised land. Keep on dreaming. Keep on being, keep sharing, keep shining, keep teaching. Keep spreading joy and goodwill wherever you go, and never follow fear, follow love. It's always in front of you. And remember to have faith and unwavering adherence to principle. Just as I have faith in the principle of love and of all of you, act with purity of heart and mind. Despise none, defraud none, hate none. Cherish all. Honor every child of God, every creature of the earth. May all people know peace in this year. May you nurture kindness and love everywhere you go. Work to be present in the body. Expand your heart, quiet your mind, because the deepest source of real power lies in your consciousness and your ability to be mindful, to be aware, to be present in all of life's circumstances. Make the most of your time in this life. Continue to touch and transform the lives around you, because you're never alone. You're forever blessed and have the ability to bring blessings to everybody you meet, health, love, and renewal to everybody you come across. We're all energy, and energy cannot be destroyed. It can only be transformed. Friends, your words are your power to transform, to love, to bless. So be generous. Bless others and bless yourself. Love with the heart, because we're all part of a greater whole. Please embrace love, not fear, forgiveness, not anger, and be there for someone, because someone will always be there for you, whether you know it or not. And never accept shame as a natural state. Whatever you feel others have felt, whatever you've experienced, others have too. We share together, we learn together, we help each other, because we're each of us trying to find love and acceptance and support. We all have or could have that special someone in our lives. So find them. Tell them what they mean, and remember, you're never alone on your journey to your promised land. Keep forgiving those you need to forgive. Keep asking forgiveness from those you need to ask forgiveness of. Continue to ask why. Continue to honor and elevate the souls and spirits of those who came before you, and continue your journey to your promised land, where your dreams can all come true. Well, thank you for joining me, my friends. Keep sharing the light. Keep practicing forgiveness. Be thankful, be gracious, be kind, be loving. Believe in yourself, and continue to spread a little goodwill to the world, and continue to be the miracle in somebody's life. Shabbat shalom, and blessings to you all, and I look forward to seeing you all next time. Take care.